Well, I wouldn't do this. Well, you wouldn't be caught in this situation. That's why you have an attorney's degree and a layperson asking you for help. That's the problem with the attorney. And you're like, that was the worst 400 bucks I spent. So John here, audience, is creative finance friendly. He understands wraps, seller finance, and reasons why people would do that. That's an important component of let me have an attorney review this before I sign it. Sellers, if you didn't know this,
Yeah.
people can go under contract with you and then assign it to somebody else. So who's the real buyer is the question there. Hi, I'm Caleb Christopher, owner of Creative Title Company in Colorado and Tennessee. We do creative finance deals, on-market deals, and we serve wholesalers especially. I'm here with John Stege, real estate attorney. Bring him all of your seller finance deals.
Hi, my name is John Stege. I'm a Colorado real estate attorney, and I help investors and sellers in creative finance deal structures.
Let's hit the same topic from different angles. What would you tell a seller who's being pitched seller finance? Like an investor is offering to buy your house on seller finance. What do you need to do before you sign a contract?
Well, I think that the seller needs to understand what the risk points are and how do I mitigate those? And they shouldn't just be rushed into doing the deal on the buyer's terms entirely.
Yeah.
That they basically need to have someone negotiate on their behalf, not blow it up in such a way that they lose the purchase, but at the same time protect the seller, because the risks are things like the buyer defaults. So now I'm going to have to go back and try to foreclose on him, and meanwhile make all the mortgage payments to make this all good. I wouldn't get my advice simply from some person that used a friend of yours or their transaction coordinator or something who may have been involved in helping you get the documents. What you need is somebody on your team that basically understands what's going on with this transaction and how do I structure it in such a way that I, as the seller, have my risks mitigated. And one of the biggest things on that is to find an equitable buyer, meaning a person that's done a lot of these and they have a track record where their transactions actually go through and there's not a heavy default rate. So 30, 50 deals in the last several years is a good bet because they now actually have the capital to fix problems. And if you can talk to people that have done business with them, also look at their credit ratings and
Yeah,
their,
it's so simple to do that and nobody does it. When I went and I took a deal subject to the existing mortgage. I showed the couple that I was buying the house from, I said, look, here's my credit score. And I said, listen, this is evidence to you that Caleb pays his bills. I had a tenant during COVID who didn't pay. Guess what? My savings ate that and I paid. I don't miss payments. And so when you hand your house to me, it is a safe thing. I'm going to take care of it. My commitment to you is to pay your mortgage. And the same thing is true on seller finance. Ask me for my stinking credit score. And if I can't respond with a satisfactory answer, do not sign a sale contract to me. Is Colorado a deficiency state?
oh yeah.
Let's explain briefly what a deficiency judgment is for those who don't follow.
Oh, that's simple. They went through the foreclosure and you still end up owing money on the mortgage after the sale.
So if I owe $500,000 and
Yeah.
it auctions for 450, they're
Right.
going to chase me and put a judgment that follows Caleb Christopher around for
Yes.
$50,000.
They don't have to accept that if it's less than their payout figure. They could then pursue against you. So even though you've lost your house, they could be suing you to collect.
Let's get to the short list of if I'm a seller and I'm selling on seller finance, what are the 5 things I need to know about my buyer before I sign that contract to feel safe and secure?
Well, the very first thing, obviously, we've already mentioned, and that is his credit rating. That's number one. If he doesn't have it and he's not able to provide it, then I'm questioning whether I'm doing business with somebody that's going to be able to handle the payments.
We've got the credit score. What else?
You've got to find out the reputation of a buyer. Like talk to people that have done business with him.
Get referrals.
Yeah, just ask him for references like you would anybody. Say, who have you done business with? Let me talk to them.
And I think number 3 would be, are you wholesaling this or are you my buyer? Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what your credit score if you're not my real buyer. So who's the real buyer is the question there. sellers, if you didn't know this,
Yeah.
people can go under contract with you and then assign it to somebody else. So the question is, who's the real buyer? I want the right to qualify that person to my standards, such and such credit score, check references. I want an inspection period on the buyer if you're not the actual buyer. That's a provision I would put in.
If I'm finding that my purchaser is going to wrap it to a third party, if my original buyer here is actually a creditable, equitable person and they have good credit rating, what I want to do is make them do the finance on their end. They remain liable on the debt
Yeah.
service to me.
So we're talking about an A to B to C transaction. You're saying I want the investor buyer with good credit to close on this, and they can double close, they can sell it to anybody else after, but I want to be able to foreclose on them if I don't get paid.
Exactly, because I don't want to be stuck with having to rely on their consumer buyer.
Yeah.
Why? Because the consumer buyer is basically like an ordinary person. They get laid off now, they can't make their mortgage payment.
Now
So like
what's number four?
I would say number four is probably making sure that you actually have the deal structure in such a way that you can actually make sense of it and that my client understands the deal terms.
So if I'm a seller and I'm getting offered to sell my house on seller finance and I can't explain the transaction structure to my mom, I probably shouldn't sign the contract. It needs to be in my own plain language understanding.
Yeah, but the bottom line is it isn't so much that the deal must be simple. The real credibility issue is whether or not I'm dealing with somebody that knows what they're doing and is actually going to stand in integrity on these deals. Because the bottom line is I have an attorney to look at the transaction to see if this is going to be an issue. And I can look at my buyer's credit worthiness and they're doing 300 deals and they don't have the capital to do them. You know, that
So
thing.
let's go with number four being attorney review. This is bittersweet to me because attorneys often say, no, kill the deal,
They
rather
don't know
than
what they're
saying,
doing.
I know. But so, yes, you should have an attorney review the deal. If you don't have somebody on your side, the buyer is not on your side. They're just not. They can be really nice. They can be well-meaning. You might get the really nice one, the really ethical one, but you should have an attorney review.
Yeah,
Or,
but here's
or
the thing on the attorney review. It can't just be an ordinary attorney. And
right.
the reason is those guys don't know they're not they don't know anything about this.
That's why it's so bittersweet to me. Like I'm like, yeah, yes, you should have an attorney review, but it needs to be the right attorney.
Yes, 100%, because most of them are like, I wouldn't do this. This is a violation of the due on sale clause. Yeah, we
Yeah.
know.
Well, even if it was pure seller finance, they would say, well, I wouldn't do this. Well, you wouldn't be caught in this situation. That's why you have an attorney's degree and you have a layperson asking you for help.
Yeah. The thing is, they're not in a position of a distressed buyer.
That's
That's
right.
how I meant. They're not the person that has to sell their house. So there's like, just go and get an agent and sell it on the market. And they're like,
And you're like, that was the worst 400 bucks I spent. What the heck was that even about? Like, that's the problem with the attorney. So, John here, audience, is a creative finance friendly. He understands wraps, seller finance, other real estate methods and reasons why people would do that. That's an important interview component of let me have an attorney review this before I sign it.
yeah. And another thing that you got to worry about is the seller disclosures. If there is no broker agency because the buyer has approached the seller, so the seller is not represented by a broker, then who's going to sit down there and explain all of those things to the seller and walk them through it? And are there representations and warranties that the seller is giving in the contract regarding those kind of standard disclosures? Or as I'm representing the seller, I simply am going to make sure that the buyer waives all that and does an inspection.
So let me distill that
Yeah, go
down to
ahead.
number five, a short inspection period and or no inspection period. Like I'm not signing the contract until you're happy. Go do your inspection if you want to
Yeah.
do the inspection or something along those lines with significant earnest money on the line.
Yeah, I think that basically getting this buyer to say, we're buying this as is, where is, and here's my inspection. You're a professional if you're buying this wholesale or if you're going to flip it or wrap it. You're supposed to be responsible for making a business decision as to whether or not you want to buy this, which
Right.
means you go and inspect it. If you either you yourself are qualified to inspect and determine any kind of conditions that might occur in this property, or you hire an inspector to go do it.
Right.
Don't rely on the seller.
And so from the seller side, if you're trying to protect yourself, we've got these 5 rules. And the reason we say high earnest money deposit, I'm talking a few $1,000s at least, earnest
At
money,
five at minimum.
and no inspection period or a very short inspection period. Wholesalers and other investors will put you under contract with a really long inspection period and drag this out, and you don't know if it's selling or not. And you're going to be buying moving boxes and trying to arrange your next living place, and they can't even close. Yeah, I mean, 10 days is normal in the real
10
estate
days.
contract. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would certainly allow them to come in and do the inspection before they sign the contract, though.
I would want them to,
Yeah.
because if they're putting it under contract sight
Yeah.
unseen, the chances of cancellation or renegotiation are a lot higher. I don't want to set my
Oh, yeah.
hopes on something closing that really is up in the air.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I represent more buyers than sellers because those are the companies that are doing the deals.
They know to look for you too.
They know to look for me and they know to do business with me whenever there's an issue. They say, how can I do this?
Yeah.
Where's my seller finance document? So that's what I do.
Okay, John, where can people reach you? What do they need to know about you?
I actually can do deals nationwide, but I'm licensed in the state of Colorado. I've been doing business in this state since 1990. Call me at my number, which is 720-431-1964, or they can simply look for my contact information on my website, which is www.compassionatelawyers.com.
Very good. And I'm Caleb Christopher. I own Creative Title Company in Colorado and recently licensed in Tennessee. So turn to us with all your seller finance, creative finance, even on market stuff. We'll run it for you.